This video demonstrates how to calibrate the twin-axis sheathing saw to make sure your saw makes accurate and consistent cuts. Remember to follow all posted safety instructions. Please take a moment to review these guidelines before proceeding. To begin the calibration process, select Calibration from the home screen and enter the password. If you do not know the password, contact MiTek Automation Support before proceeding with these instructions. The twin-axis sheathing saw offers fine-tune and automatic calibration options.
Fine-tune calibration should be carried out after tensioning of the conveyor or carriage chains or whenever the saw is otherwise not producing accurate cuts.
Automatic calibration should only be used after the occurrence of major, non-routine maintenance events, such as the replacement of critical mechanical or electrical components, as it resets the saw to default settings. The instructions for automatic calibration will be covered later in this video. To begin the fine-tune calibration process, select Fine Tune. Select the material to calibrate: plywood, zipboard, or OSB. Make sure to calibrate for all different material types that will be cut by the saw. The calibration settings will be saved for each type. Load a fresh 4x8 sheet onto the infeed conveyor. Make sure the board is not beyond the "Do not load past this line" label.
MiTek recommends using a full 4x8 high-quality sheet that's square, has good edges, and not much bow, as the weight, dimensions, and texture will provide the most accurate calibration result.
Select Clamp Sheet. Once the clamp has secured the sheet, select Request Calibration Cut and the sheet will enter the saw chamber to be cut. Once the material exits the saw chamber, you can begin measuring the calibration cuts. Measure the cuts to 30 seconds to ensure 1/16 accuracy. The cuts must be entered on the fine-tune screen in decimal inch form. For example, the decimal form of 8 3/4 inches would be 8.75 inches. Start by measuring the rip width at the middle of the board and enter the value in the actual rip width field. In this example, the rip width is 8 7/8 inches, which would be entered as 8.875 decimal inches. Next, we will determine the actual cross plunge depth. How this value is determined depends on whether the saw undercuts or overcuts the material. If the blade undercuts, meaning it did not complete the crosscut, measure the length of the undercut and enter the value in the actual cross plunge depth field. This can be made easier by flipping over the cut material and measuring from the bottom, as shown here. If the blade overcuts, meaning it completes the cross cut and proceeds to cut the remainder of the sheet, you must use the following calculation: actual rip width plus cut thickness plus plunge to determine the actual cross plunge depth. The actual rip width is the value that we determined in the previous step. Plunge is the amount the blade overcuts the material. Cut thickness or kerf is the size of the cut made by the blade. A MiTek approved blade for the twin-axis sheathing saw should have a cut thickness of 0.12 inches, so this value will be used for this video. In this example, we will assume a plunge overcut value of 1 7/16 or 1.44 decimal inches. Since the saw overcut the material, we'll need to use the calculation referenced here to determine the actual cross plunge depth. In this example, the sum of the three values is 10.435. Lastly, measure the crosscuts from shortest to the longest pieces and enter the values in the respective cut A, B, and C fields. In this example, we will assume the actual cross-cut measurements match the default values of 10 inches for cut A, 12 inches for cut B, and 72 inches for cut C. Select Calibrate to save settings. When the calibration is complete, the software will return to the Material Select screen. Repeat the calibration process shown in this video for the different material types as needed to ensure accuracy. If a non-routine maintenance event has occurred, automatic calibration may be required. Select Automatic to access the automatic calibration screen. Select Home Blades to enable the Calibrate option. Wait for the homing to complete. When the blades are at the home position, a dialog box will appear. Press OK to clear the notification and the Calibrate Machine button will become available. Select Calibrate Machine to reset to the best known settings for the rip and cross-cut blades. After performing an automatic calibration, proceed with a fine-tune calibration using the procedure earlier in this video to ensure the saw has the most accurate cuts. If you need further assistance with the calibration process, you can contact MiTek Automation Support at the phone number seen here and in the video description.